victory of the forces of light. Earth once more turned over to humans. Entities, invisible worlds, inner Earth civilizations. I'm posting this because I'm finding this quite interesting. If anything, it's fantasy, imaginative, creative. There may be myth, truth, I have no idea. But I think we have quite a few people interested in this. And it's a follow-up on what we had before. The thing concerning the Battle for Earth, a few videos back. The Planet Earth Ultimate Prize, Force of Light, Anunnaki, ETs, Reptilians, Parallel Universes, and things like that. Now, this is again victory of light forces, Earth delivered back to humanity. Harold Tears says, and then a very, very interesting piece of information. Since yesterday morning, and indeed my partner who died in March died on the night of March 30th, and throughout her life, she said she had been incarnated for the first time in Earth. She could give energy, she could see her own energy, the light rays in indigo colors, 7 centimeter, the whole field of power she could create. She had come from a very, very high divine level here on Earth, and her mission was to bring love to Earth, even for the New Age, but she was also somewhat influenced by dark forces. She always wanted to help, her love very strong, all very well, healed in a very powerful way until she died, and while living, she was told that she was the commander of a top-class spaceship. At first, I just listened to her. Anyone can say what she wants, but the crazy thing was when her brother, who lived south of Nuremberg, got married, he and his bride in mid-August had a very crazy experience. The following thing happened. My girlfriend, we said, died March 30th. The incident on her brother's plot occurred in mid-August. They sat outside in the afternoon and roasted. They had a barbecue. 3 meters further, they have a 2-meter high bush fence. A little further away is a tree where a glowing light suddenly appeared from nowhere, completely blue, which was discolored to white. A complete change. An hour before this happened, a very special situation, a significant situation happened. They had their bike rested on the tree, and suddenly the bike was self-contained, lifted into the air, and popped back to the ground. There was no one nearby that was visible. Joe Conrad said, not even the wind? Harold Tear says, shaking his head negatively, there was nothing. This is crazy. Apparently, in this way, they were somewhat awakened to what was to come. And later, Martin looked at that light. He's a car mechanic, by the way. I've also interviewed him and recorded everything, which we can also publish. Impressed by the light, he went closer, but could not see their outline because the light was too bright, extremely bright. Petra, too, was looking at the mountain. It was about 10 at night in the kiosk where they were baking, and the light was already on, and the fence was about 4 meters away. So behind the fence, he saw entities walking, but they were not 2 meters tall or 3 meters, but as she said, they were as tall as the entire house. 7 to 8 meter tall beings walked along the fence and had an insect-looking head, insect-looking heads. He described them as locusts in form. That's how they looked. Joe Conrad says some call these entities munchies. Were they? Harold Tear says yes, and it was 3 of them. They strolled behind her fence. They were huge. Petra was overwhelmed by panic and just screamed. The neighbor came out because she thought her husband was doing something wrong. Normal alarm triggered Petra, and she saw that these huge entities were passing by her, and that they were black in color. She said that the light could be bearable, and she just laughed and bowed in the name of God with nothing. They didn't look like that, exactly the opposite. So she went up to that bright light and then disappeared. I also have a friend who can see the invisible world. He did a test, but Petra herself, after telling me the story, added that it may have something to do with Sabine, his girlfriend who died in March. How she might have been on board the spaceship and how she probably left the land to obviously participate in this battle, as she was, as the commander said, and the leader on the spaceship with her crew. So he thought that maybe Sabine lifted and threw the bicycle off Origin to prepare them for what was to follow. The spaceship was already looking, it might even be her own, and my acquaintance who checked it said more specifically that she even had aides from a whole group involved, but they were invisible, and that they had essentially captured and removed these insect-like entities. This is really amazing. And Joe Conrad said, "It should be clear to all of us, of course, there are many who ask what aliens look like, but there are countless many forms and completely different kinds. Like taking Star Trek and Star Wars together, where Hollywood shows us." And Harold Tier says, "Yes, you're right." And of course, he goes on to say, "I have a friend I met just yesterday in Nuremberg. I visited the son of my deceased girlfriend with whom we took a walk. We met the common old healer who knew Sabine very well. He was in South America shortly before the ayahuasca ritual and said to me, 'Harold, I must tell you something interesting. Because when you take an ayahuasca, it enters a different field of consciousness. You enter a different field of consciousness.' And during this, she suddenly saw Sabine. So keep on saying, 'Charles, you won't believe it, but she's there with Ashtar.' What he always said, 'It's with Ashtar. It's with a spaceship. I saw it.' That is, she's with a spaceship. So he took all this as pictures. This was also amazing, so the whole cycle ended. And the episode, how all this happened on her brother's land, and how he and his bride saw it, who are completely landing people, unlanded, but stable, let's put it that way. They're not imaginative, they're not into these spiritual Anunnaki, Nephilim things. They're just down-to-earth, basic, what's the word for it? Grounded people, all right? They don't let their imagination take the better of them. So they're completely grounded, not esoteric, not charlatans, but completely normal, grounded people. And how about that with my girlfriend? Maybe I should have gotten this information myself, as it might have been predictable from the forces of light that I'm going to make it public one day. All this closes this cycle, this circle of experiences for me. They all make sense. It's amazing. I'm sorry, I was trying to translate it. Joe Conrad. So now we are at the very crucial point, not just for humanity, but for the whole galaxy. Harold Tier says, for the whole galaxy. The latest information was that the entire dark infrastructure has been destroyed and that a planet at the boundary of the Milky Way, discovered to function as a dark planet, was 30 times the size of Earth, had been conquered by the forces of light during this battle, and the entities that lived there, the most vicious entities, vampires, parasites, and everything else we don't know and we don't want, they imprisoned them in many dimensions. Many dimensions. Many parallel universes, I would say. This should be the Astasis. This should be we should be able to understand, and what is this thing about? People are sitting in front of a bathtub watching football, or they care about the German Reich, but I'm not talking here about Germany, because these people here talking are German, or the European Union, the Vatican, planet Earth, or our solar system, but about the whole galaxy. That is exactly why. Joe Conrad. But ultimately, it is the battle of the dark forces against the forces of light. Harold Tier says, 100,000 years old battle. They are described in detail in ancient Indian scriptures and texts. It's also described in the cuneiform scriptures. They include many details about the gods' wars, or about the radioactive radiation that Mars has, as John Brandenburger has shown, and is apparently due to the fact that they had used atomic energy weapons. The dark forces, the dark entities, were always able to prevent their release through their radiation systems, radiation machines, bombs, etc. They could create something like antimatter, that is to say, a kind of a rifle which would absorb all of that and could not break. This process could destroy the entire galaxy. They could say, quote, if you want to free Earth, then we will use a bomb, end quote, and thus the entire galaxy will disappear. And so the Creator's plan would disappear from the center of the Earth. This bomb was apparently able to be turned off by the light forces, the forces of light, that is, the forces of love and good. Because of this type, the bombs were stored on Gaia. That is, on our Earth, planet Gaia is the name of our planet, Yi in Greek. So the liberation operation could take place, and it had to happen now for people to wake up. Because we live in the third dimension, we are the main inhabitants of the surface of the Earth. This reminds me of Men in Black, the second or third movie, you know, when that girl was wearing that little twinkle bracelet with the little blue light started flashing. Not her bracelet. I'm sorry. I just saw this the other night. I was saying that's what it reminds me of. That this is stored on the third planet from the sun. What can I tell you? And to go on with the translations, if the Earth is liberated, and we see liberators as adversaries, as Hollywood often wants us to convince us of, that the wicked ones as aliens, then people must first wake up. This is the case now. Joe Conrad says, we have to do all this conscious work, not to look at football, but to realize what potential we have as human beings, that we are much more valuable creatures than we think, because we are always burdened with guilt and kept young by such feelings and religions, what it means to realize. And this is the most important, the decision work at the moment that we have to take. Harold Tier says, that's exactly what this is all about. Humanity can progress, and then we can experience our true evolution. We will have the opportunity not to constantly work as a hamster wheel and run behind the money as primates. Joe Conrad says the scarcity is, of course, although there is plenty, they absorb it. Some are incredibly rich. Harold Tier says exactly, culture inside the Earth has no issue with money. They do not have culture, meaning the inner Earth civilization. They do not have to go to work for 8 hours and have enough They take I'm missing something. They have half an hour break for noon, and that doesn't exist there. But I think he's comparing inner Earth with us here on the surface of the Earth. That doesn't exist there, but at some point it will come to Earth. In other words, what their civilization is. The information that I have said, that all this higher energy of the interior of the Earth, the inner Earth, will spread to the surface of the Earth will enter a higher level, and the forces of light destroy many dark forces, evil forces that violate the contracts and new peace agreements signed by 99 groups. The groups that violate it are eliminated to higher energy levels, so they will either abide by the peace pact or will be destroyed in energy. This process is now followed, and so the Earth is hiring ever higher energy vibration. So people are often involved in disorders. Anyone who has negative thoughts or acts as a scammer has bad paper, and the same is true of people of the intelligence services. Tommy Williams says that they always talk in two ways. On the one hand is their public reason, and on the other they do and on the other they do. In other words, and they on one hand they show the public words and their actions, and in reality they're doing something else, something totally different. That's what they're trying to say. This means that they are blocking their neck chakras, and when the energy increases continuously and at the same time increases the energy in the body, it ends up to be clogged, its energy center is clogged, then nothing can go on. They collapse, they're just leveled. This is where people make the decision to change sides. They finally decide to work positively. We have to realize that they are all just humans. It's just the soldiers in the big game. Just as Rothschild was just a ghost for Warburg, W-A-R-B-U-R-G, Warburg, and pulled the carpet under his feet, so do the secrets what they have to gain if they continue to work against humanity. What will they gain? And that is our point. Think about all this. Tommy Williams says that anyone who continues to work with and support all these negative systems up to the end will be called upon to pay the highest price possible, the destruction of their souls. It will eliminate the soul itself, and if it is eliminated, erased, even everything is over. The physical body is just an illusion, and this is about mental death of that happening. If that happens, then it's over. And here they're obviously talking about the spiritual death. It would be over. John Connor says that means enough. You tried to destroy the whole galaxy. If you're not repentant now, then you will be charged. Harold Tier says exactly that. And now this energy change is coming, and that is why it's important for people to do their chakra work, their inner work, to let go of their negative sides, their mistakes, and their issues, and move on to a new path to work in a bright way to awaken others. Joe Conrad, it is a shame that the media doesn't do that. They should now wake people up, let them know. Alternative media is involved, but that's not enough. Many people are approaching it, but now is a time really urgent to deal with conscious inner work and to decide clearly. I know that there are people who are not so clear about light and love or darkness. They think that everyone can choose indiscriminately. This is implanted by dark forces of thought, to think that darkness is in harmony with light. And this is nonsense. To me, light is a self-existent force, and darkness is simply the absence of light. Harold Tier says, yes, that's right. And we'll have more of these on this series for those who are interested. This is from Dia Drastica. It's a Greek periodical, and I'll leave links below for you for this. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.